Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm back. I'm here to give my recap of what we learned in Week 3 and to look ahead at Week 4's action, my predictions for those games, including tonight's game with the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens. Let's go to the trusty handy-dandy netbook here and look at the recaps of all the games from Week 3 and to give my quick takes on those. First and foremost, I was dead wrong about the Giants at the Panthers. I figured if the Giants were going to be severely depleted, they can just go ahead and take a loss. You know, it could be understandable because they're only coming off of 4 days of rest and flying to Carolina to face the Panthers. If you watch that game, you know that the Panthers were beaten from pillar to post. Eli Manning made stars out of Reuben Randall, Martellus Bennett, and Andre Brown, and they just completely ran over Carolina. The Giants are the Super Bowl champions, defending Super Bowl champs rather, and they played like it, even without their starting lineup, most of their starting lineup for that game. So my bad. Definitely misfired on that one, and Carolina's defense is really terrible. It's very terrible. And Cam Newton, you are a star. People love you when you play well, but you earn the most respect by how you carry yourself during a time of defeat. And very, very immature of you to sit there and sulk and act as if the world should be doing you a favor, which is why I respect what Steve Smith did by getting in your face and pretty much getting in your ass, about your demeanor during that entire game. So, having said that, moving forward, the Bucs and Cowboys, what we learned is both teams really suck. One just sucks even more. The Buccaneers, after surprising the world by beating the Carolina Panthers at home in Week 1, which really isn't much of a surprise these days if you looked at how Carolina's been playing as of late. They've started to hit the old losing streak again. Now, they played the Giants tough at the Meadowlands and pretty much collapsed in the second half and tried that old, rough up the center QB exchange and the victory formation to try to cause a fumble. Of course, that got a lot of heat. Some people support it, some don't. But they go into Dallas and they just play absolutely horrid. That's the best way I can describe it. Dallas didn't do any better. They won, but the fact of the matter is Romo has been playing like crap. Either the offensive line isn't giving him help or he's making some really bad decisions because he's just a turnover machine at this point, and there's really no continuity on that team. You look at what they did in Week 1, you're thinking, okay, well, they're finally going to put it together. And then they go to Seattle and pretty much get curb stomped. Then they go home and yeah, they won, but it wasn't one of those impressive, gritty, battle it out type of victories. It was just who can make the least amount of mistakes or who can at least capitalize on a mistake. So if you're a Cowboys fan, well, there's two types. Either a diehard or you're a wagon jumper. The diehards know that basically this is the Dallas team that drives fans nuts. Either they do really well or they do really bad. And even when they do win, there's still something about them that says they're not ready for that next level. So what we learned about both teams is that they both have some serious work to do. Next up, the Jags at the Colts. I misfired on this one. Oh, by the way, I did pick the Cowboys to win that game too. So the Jaguars and the Colts, I picked the Colts to win this one. They almost did when Andrew Luck drove down the field and Adam Vinatieri hit a field goal to go up 17-16 with like a minute or so left in the game, and then Blaine Gabbert chucks an 80-yard touchdown pass to his receiver. Name escapes me, my apologies, but Blaine Gabbert threw a game-winning touchdown pass basically, and which meant that my pick was wrong. But what we learned is that this is a battle between first and second year QBs. So the Jags, this is like the second game where they actually show that they can actually move the ball down the field. Now the game against the Texans, they look like the Jaguars of last year. The Colts, obviously, still a brand new team, quote unquote. with the Andrew Luck era in full effect. Andrew Luck, he's playing well, for rookie standards. He's not the dynamic QB like a RG3 or Cam Newton last year, but as far as a pocket passing QB making good decisions, he's doing his job. So, obviously it's going to be growing pains for both teams. And what we learned about both of them is that, they both showed that two teams that are really at the bottom of the pile, they're fighting for respect. They're fighting for attention. So, hang your hat. You can hang your hat for both teams. You can tip your hat to both teams right now. I mean, they're fighting. They're fighting it out. And by the way, Maurice Jones-Drew, great game. Great game. So, moving forward, the Buffalo Bills at the Cleveland Browns. This is Cleveland. Matter of fact, I picked the Bills to beat the Browns. I mean, I think 99.9% of America did. What we're learning here is that Trent Richardson is really becoming the real deal as far as his pick or his value as the number 4 pick out of this year's NFL draft. He's really making a name for himself. And Whedon, after a absolute craptastic week 1 and a spectacular week 2, he didn't do bad, he didn't do good, but he's definitely moving away from what he looked like in week 1. But it's still the Browns, and they're still not finding ways to win. Buffalo Bills, on the other hand, C.J. Spiller has really come on and really has shown himself to be who he is as far as draft value when he was picked number 10 in the 2011. Was it 20? No, 20. Was it 2010 or 2011? It escapes me. No, 2010. I take that back. 2010 NFL draft. He's really looking impressive. Unfortunately, he got hurt his AC joint, so he's gonna be out for a couple weeks. But before that, he's been playing very well. And Fred Jackson, like I said in last week's What Have We Learned, you better watch your back, man, because if he continues to play like this, they're gonna really evaluate the front office anyway. They're gonna really evaluate just why they threw all that money at you when their rookie, or I say rookie, their third-year running back is actually outperforming you. And that's all I have to say about that. I picked the Bills to win, so moving forward. Jets at Dolphins. I had the Jets beating the Dolphins. This was a back-and-forth game. Went to overtime, but it came at a price for both teams, mainly for the Jets because they're all-pro, everything on defense star Darrelle Revis tore his ACL, and he is done for the season. And Rex Ryan knows that with Darrelle Revis on that field, 50% of that real estate out there for an opposing team's offense is pretty much shut down. So he can work magic, he can mix it up, he can do whatever he wants, knowing that wherever Revis goes, wherever that top receiver goes, or whoever their star receiver is, Revis is going to go there, and he's going to shut him down. Now he doesn't have him for the rest of the year. So it's going to be really interesting to see just how well Rex Ryan does without his all-pro, all-everything player, and how well he can get that defense moving without him roaming the field. Also, for the Dolphins, y'all may want to get a new kicker, man, because I don't know how many times I've seen Dan Carpenter shank 40-yard field goals. Now everybody's like, well, can you do it? That's not my job. It's a kicker's job. And a kicker, 40 yards or less, that's automatic, pretty much. And this isn't a kicker that's kicking, at Buffalo or somewhere or Chicago with some crazy winds. He's the home team's kicker, and I've seen him miss kicks left and right. And I know this because I drafted him at one point, and yeah, won't make that mistake again. But Reggie Bush, he got hurt in this game, but he won't be out for as long as feared. And for the record, Reggie Bush is also playing tremendously well. Better late than never. He's really become a running back that a lot of people thought he would be coming out of SC and thought he would be for the Saints. And then everybody thought that, he pretty much fell off, that he was just a gadget player. And then last season, he gets his first 1,000-yard season, And the first few games of this season, he picked up where he left off. So, Dolphins get him back. You know, that offense can move a little bit more. And Tannehill can grow more into his role as a QB. But, you know, having said that, I did pick the Jets to beat the Dolphins, and we'll move on. We have next the Chiefs at the Saints. I figured the Saints would go ahead and finally get off their horrid losing streak and just come home and handle the Chiefs who have looked just as bad as they have. And then I was wrong. Jamal Charles ran wild, over 250 yards rushing. Yes, that's right, 250 yards rushing. Matt Castle played a great game. They were down by 18 points going into the fourth, and they scored 18 unanswered, sent it in overtime, and then not only that, win it in overtime. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Saints are 0-3. Yeah, last season in the regular season, they only lost 3. So they've already matched their loss total from all of last season. That team is a mess. And like I said, we can keep talking about it week in and week out. Bounty Gate damaged that team. And not having Sean Payton on that sideline has really got Drew Brees looking very mortal. They're not that prolific, high-flying Saints offense that you saw from seasons past. They're nowhere near that. They're barely holding their heads above water. Matter of fact, they're in the basement in the NFC South when they've been running the NFC South for the last few seasons. Carolina even has a win. Tampa Bay has a win. Atlanta hasn't lost. But you got the Saints reverting back to what they were pre-2006. The Chiefs, they knew they needed this win, and they got it. And they did it in impressive fashion. Now, whether they carry that impressive win into more wins down the road is yet to be seen. But at least from week 3, they looked mighty impressive. So, hats off to the Chiefs. I picked against you. You proved me wrong. Let's move on. Yes. Next game, shootout, ladies and gentlemen. Second-year QB versus a rookie QB. Cincinnati Bengals at the Washington Redskins. Andy Dalton versus RG3. And this lived up to its billing. The final score was 38-31, and both QBs were lighting it up. AJ Green, that kid is just impressive week in and week out. Him and Andy Dalton have a connection. They're almost like twin brothers when they're out there. Like, it's very rare when you hear AJ Green being shut down. Andy Dalton will get him the ball. On top of that, Redskins, I mean, they lost to Rakpo. They lost Adam Carricker. Or, excuse me, not Adam Carricker, Ryan Kerrigan. For the remainder of the season. They lost their 2 biggest playmakers on defense, especially at their defensive front. And they still played a hell of a game. They just came up short, but Robert Griffin III, he is as advertised. He was worth the second pick. Dan Snyder has to be happy knowing that he gave away so many picks for a star player that he felt he was getting, and that person is living up to its billing. So, what did we learn? The Bengals are beating teams they're supposed to. Yet again, they beat the Browns, and now they've beaten the Redskins. They just can't beat the Ravens or any team that they need to beat to be that upper tier team. But you know what? That youth movement is working for Cincinnati. They're getting it done. So, can't hate. Redskins, it's just a matter of finding who's going to step up on that defense. RG3 is the real deal, ladies and gentlemen. He will be Offensive Rookie of the Year, and he is playing lights out. He is a general, and he's a leader, and you see how well that team responds to him. So, Redskins fans, be proud. I think you have a QB of the future finally, and it's been a while since you've had one, so hats off. So, moving forward, the St. Louis Rams at the Chicago Bears. I picked the Bears to win this one. I also picked the Bengals to beat the Redskins. I picked the Bears to win this one, and they won this one handily. This was an ugly game, but it was at Chicago, so the uglier the better for the Bears, and they got the W. Bradford reverted back to second season Bradford after having pretty much one of his career games against the Redskins last week. Pretty much threw up a dud in this game. No touchdown passes, 2 picks. That offense just didn't move. And what we learned is that when the Rams, pardon me, when they play teams that are pretty much near their level or even below it, they play well. But it's those high name teams, those teams that people expect to be playoff caliber, that they had the most trouble with. The Bears definitely got the bad taste of week 2 out of their mouths, and plus they had 11 days of rest. 11 days of rest to get themselves ready for this game, and they played well offensively, defensively. They got it done, and so they're 2-1. The Rams are 1-2. We'll move forward. The upset of the week, and one I picked wrong, and I'm a fan of this team. I'm not too happy about it, but this is an NFL blog, so we must discuss. The 49ers at the Vikings. The Vikings, you could say upset the 49ers 24-13, but I watched that game, and it wasn't an upset. The Vikings just came out and played much better, and they outplayed the 49ers. The 49ers, this was pretty much a trap game, and they fell into it. Christian Ponder came out and established what he wanted to do in that game, and he did it. They could not handle his scrambles. They could not put pressure on him, and he made them pay. And the 49ers were uncharacteristically sloppy. Offensively, defensively, they gave up the most rushing yards total, not to a running back, but total, in Jim Harbaugh's full tenure. Since Jim Harbaugh's been the head coach of the 49ers, they gave up like 146 yards rushing. Obviously, definitely wasn't too happy about that. Like I said, the Vikings just came with it. And I got that pick wrong. And, well, it's what happens whenever you go into a trap game and your head's all swelled up. You get punched in the mouth. So, moving forward from that, we will go to a game that was pretty wild. Had a pretty wild ending. This is the Detroit Lions at the Tennessee Titans. I had the Lions winning this game. They proved me wrong. But the Titans, they came out and played. And the Lions came back with the hustle. At one point in the fourth quarter, the Titans were up 41-27. Well, the Lions marched back. Matthew Stafford got hurt, so Sean Hill had to come in. He hits Calvin Johnson on a touchdown. It brings the game within 7. Just less, final seconds of the game. Sean Hill throws up a prayer, a Hail Mary. Titans defender, instead of knocking it down, he pretty much volleys it. And Titus Young is right there to scoop it up. Gets in the end zone. Extra point later. We're in overtime. And in overtime, Tennessee Titans march down the field, get the field goal, and then they hold the Detroit Lions. They do a 4th down stand, and they end up winning the game. So what have we learned? That Madden curse is real, folks. It may not be on Calvin Johnson, but it's on that team. It's a blast radius. The Lions are 1-2 after last season going 5-0. Basically, Matthew Stafford, he's not playing as well as he did last season around this time. And Calvin Johnson, he did get in the end zone finally, but he got in twice. But he's not having that Megatron-ish type of performance. Maybe not yet. Maybe not at all. It's yet to be seen. Tennessee Titans, man. It's not the running game. I mean, heck, Jake Locker and their special teams got it done for them. So, Chris Johnson, wow, you're terrible. And you can say it's a bad offensive line, but I also remember a running back by the name of Barry Sanders that had a line even worse than yours. So, keep that in mind. Next, we go to San Diego, where the Atlanta Falcons pretty much curb stomped the Chargers. The Atlanta Falcons, wow. They are really making a name for themselves in the regular season. They are playing very well. Offensively, defensively, special teams, you name it. They haven't taken an L yet this season, and they're playing outstanding. Matt Ryan, he wants to shake that label of being, a serviceable QB, but can't get it done in the postseason. It's not the postseason yet, but he's playing very well. That team is just clicking on all cylinders right now. And the Chargers, who were undefeated up until this game, they just came out flat. and they just got punked out on their home field. We learned about the Falcons what we learned about them in the first 2 weeks. They've been playing well. They haven't lost. Matter of fact, outside of the Broncos game, I mean, they've really just tightened up on opposing teams. What we learned about the Chargers is that you took a bad game, you took a bad loss. Don't let that be the everything of your season so far. But you definitely got outplayed by a better team. So, step it up. Next up, game I picked, and by the way, I had the Chargers winning that game. Next up, we have the Philadelphia Eagles at the Arizona Cardinals. I picked the Cardinals to win because they've been on a tear since near the end of last season, and they haven't stopped. They're another one of these surprising unbeaten teams. First time they've gone 3-0 since they moved to Arizona. If you watch this game, that defense just harassed the hell out of Michael Vick. Like, they couldn't get anything going. Heck, they couldn't even get in the end zone. And the one time they had a chance, Kerry Rhodes comes out of nowhere, boom, blitz, knocks the ball out of Vick's hands. Next thing you know, convoy for the Cardinals going down the field, touchdown. And Kevin Cobb even played well. He got his last laugh against the team that sent him to Arizona. So, what we learned is that the Eagles were living on a prayer with all those turnovers, and yet they were 2-0 going into that game. They couldn't work magic like that again because they just got punched in the mouth and punched in the mouth and punched in the mouth, knocked down, and they were kept down. So what we learned is that the offensive coordinator needs to figure out how to develop quick plays, quick strike plays instead of letting these plays draw out because they're going to get their quarterback killed. What we learned about the Cardinals, what we already knew about them. They have a damn good defense. The NFC West holds some damn good defenses. You look at the Niners, you look at the Seahawks, you look at the Cardinals. Those teams will punch you dead in the mouth. And they're punching high-profile, high-flying teams in the mouth and grounding them and making you play their game. Now, the Niners didn't get to do that against the Vikings, but if you look at their resume in prior games, you see what I'm talking about. Seahawks as well. And now the Cardinals. And even the Rams at times. They get that defense together. They can actually do something. But the Cardinals, surprising 3-0 team, but if you watch them, you kind of wouldn't be too surprised because other than the quarterback issue, they got a solid team. So, moving on. Now we discuss the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Oakland Raiders. I had the Steelers winning this one. They didn't have themselves winning this one. They were actually up in this game. I think they were up by like 2 touchdowns or so. Then the Raiders came back, marched down the field, and ended up winning the game with a Seabass field goal. And I love me some Seabass. Pause. I draft him. Guy's great. But what we learned is that, the Steelers have weapons. The Steelers can move the ball down the field. Wasn't a cause of panic after that game, other than, Darius Hayward-Bay pretty much getting knocked out of the game. Guy got fined for that hit. But there really wasn't too much to be concerned about because, they played Steelers football. It's just that the Raiders were at home and the Raiders they made bigger plays at the end. What we learned about the Raiders is that, Carson Palmer ain't too bad. Don't expect 350, 400-yard games out of them. But that team played hard. That team played tough. They're always a tough draw at home. So, you can't be too surprised that they did win at home because the Black Hole isn't one of the easier places to play. So, moving forward from that game, Houston Texans at the Denver Broncos in the Matt Schaub imitates Mick Foley game. And when I say that, he took a hit from Joe Mays, from Joe Mays' crown of his helmet, so hard it knocked a piece of his ear off of his head. Like a piece of meat from his ear flew off. That's scary. But what we learned about the Texans is that they're still kicking ass and taking names. They went up big on the Broncos early. Matt Schaub, 3 touchdown passes, one to Andre Johnson, one to Kevin Walter, another one to Owen Daniels. That defense was playing tremendous. And the Broncos, once again, having to play from behind and that sense of urgency. So the score was 31-25, but if you watch that game, the Texans pretty much had control of that game from jump. So what we learned about the Broncos is that, again, they keep playing behind the 8 ball. They did that against outside of the Pittsburgh game when they went to Atlanta. You know, Peyton throws 3 picks in the first quarter, 4 turnovers in the first quarter. They're playing from behind. Then they play from behind against the Texans. Outside of week 1, they have not really been a complete team. Peyton, I don't know if it's just him having so much rust or teams really figuring him out, but they just don't look right. You know, they don't look right at all. They're almost looking like the Broncos of last season. But no Tebow magic. But, yeah, they got some work to do. And Texans are sitting pretty. They're pretty much the top team in the league right now. But the Broncos, y'all got some work to do. And this next game y'all got coming up ain't going to be easy for you anyway. So, moving on to 2 games that had some ref implications. We're talking the Baltimore Ravens playing the New England Patriots at Baltimore. This is a heavy game for the Ravens. Torrey Smith, unfortunately, lost his little brother to a motorcycle accident, and he decided he wanted to play in this game. And with a heavy heart, he played tremendously well. 9 catches, I think 130 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And, you know, for him to go out there and play knowing that he had that on his mind, you know, hearts go out to him as an NFL fan. You know, hope he's able to get through this situation. Nobody wants to have to go through life knowing that they lost a younger sibling in life, and you know, heart goes out to him. But the story here is that the Patriots are 1-2, and there was a field goal that the Ravens kicked to pretty much win the game that Belichick wasn't too happy about. He thought it was no good. He yanks up a ref to try to get his attention. Of course, he gets fined $50,000 for that. But I think the bottom line here is that you look at the Saints and the Patriots. What the hell, man? They're combined 1-5 this season. When last year they were the chic picks for Super Bowl bids. But now you look at Drew Brees. He ain't been playing well. Brady hasn't been really playing right. He's without Aaron Hernandez. But, I mean, you think, you know, from years past when he didn't have these superstars that he can make a star out of anybody. In that fourth quarter, he only got, like, what, 3 first downs in that game? So, the Ravens at home are the Ravens at home, folks. They rarely lose at home. Matter of fact, they haven't lost at home in about 2 seasons so far. They didn't lose all of last season at home. They haven't lost at home yet this season. You have to go back to probably the 2010 season to find the first time or the last time they took an L in their backyard. So, what we learned is that the Ravens are playing like Super Bowl contenders, at the very least AFC Championship contenders. So, the Patriots, they got some problems, serious problems, offensively, defensively. I mean, they don't look like the team that people were intimidated to play last season or seasons past. So, moving on, and we're going to call this the Survivor Series 1997 Game of the Night. The Green Bay Packers at the Seattle Seahawks. I don't know if anybody heard what happened at the end of this game. It hasn't really been talked about that much. I'm not going to go into great detail about it because I think you already know. But, end of the day, the Packers are 1-2. And from what I can say is, do not let yourselves be put in a position where the ref decides whether you win or lose. And the Packers did that. Now, granted, that was a shitty call. But when you allow your QB to get sacked 8 times in the first half, you're already setting yourself up for failure. And that is at Seattle. They don't play. Seattle's a beast. I already said that last week when the Dallas Cowboys went up there and got punched out by the Seattle Seahawks. You don't play the Seahawks up there to blow them out. You just better hope you find a way to win. The Seahawks, they're 2-1, and they've beaten two NFC caliber teams in the Packers and the Cowboys, albeit the second one, the Green Bay Packers here, through much controversy. And because of that controversy, the official NFL refs are back. They reached an agreement with the NFL front office, the NFL Refs Association, reached an agreement with them. The refs will be back for tonight's game with the Cleveland Browns at the Baltimore Ravens. And in my next video, because I don't want to make this too long, I will go over my picks for that game as well as the rest of Week 4's NFL action.